Welcome to another episode of Tune In with Trevor. My very special guest today is David Helfant, who is a prominent entertainment attorney in Los Angeles, California. Let's talk about what's going on in the music industry right now. Sure. Somebody comes into your office who has a viral video. That's all they have. What's the next step?
Getting a day job. No, seriously. You have to find your audience. 20 years ago, if you created great content, you would deliver it to a record company and they would do all the sales and marketing. Now, in order to launch a career, you have to start it yourself. And then when a record company or a distribution company sees that you've got an audience, that's when they'll jump on board. But you have to be a self-starter.
What kind of numbers can you do? Can you give me an idea?
It's all over the place. I mean, I have one, emerging artist that I represent, and she came up with the idea of doing a music video featuring Taylor Swift and her boyfriend. And she had no real following. She ended up doing a song and a music video, put it up online, 1.5 million views. She'd never had that kind of viral success before, but she tapped into someone else's brand and affiliated herself with it.
Did she use pictures of Taylor?
Yeah.
I wonder how Taylor felt about it.
Well, she's a public figure. You can do it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You're working now with Paul Abdul, Diane Warren, who's like one of the most successful songwriters of all time, and Alice Cooper.
Yes. He had a new record that just came out on Friday.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Tell us about working with Diane Warren.
Diane's great. She's very prolific, and she's very tenacious about finding a place for her music, whether it's with a pop artist, a rapper, and she is totally into sync opportunities. So once she creates a song that she thinks really resonates with people, and she tries to figure out how to get it into a movie or a TV show as a marketing tool.
You spent many years as head of legal at Paramount Pictures for music.
Correct.
Tell us about how the music synchronization works.
It's different for different projects. I was very lucky during my stay at Paramount. I worked on a lot of fantastic music-driven films like School of Rock, which I remember when we were first putting the movie together, Jack was signed to Sony through a band called Tenacious D. And Jack Black. Yes. And the head of soundtrack saw the movie and said, "Oh my God, this movie's horrible. It's going to ruin his career." And in truth, it made him a star. But very music-driven. He co-wrote some of the music, then he sang the music on camera, and the kids that were in the film all had to play. So Linkletter, who was a director, insisted that these kids be able to sing and play their instruments, so they were a legitimate band. I worked on that. I worked on Mean Girls. I worked on How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. And all of these films had young contemporary artists that were driving the music component for the film. And it worked out great.
And now you are a music supervisor some of the time, right?
I just finished my 8th film.
And what do you do as a music supervisor?
You do different things depending upon the production and the director. For example, certain directors have a very good sense of what they want, and they'll give you the tone and the feel of it. And other directors don't really know what they're looking for, and you bring stuff to them and educate them, because a lot of people are, I'm working on 2 movies right now with first-time directors. So you have to be more engaging and more aggressive with the suggestions that you make, because they don't necessarily know the process.
How do you find the music?
It's different in every project. It depends on the subject matter of the film. And oftentimes I might be aware of a new artist that is coming onto the scene. And I say, wow, if I put these 2 projects together, I could actually create a lane for both of them. So every situation is different. You have to be, a packager, if you will. Your job is to match the music to the visuals and the story, and sometimes it works magnificently, and sometimes it doesn't.
So you're trying to keep up with what's going on in contemporary music?
You have to.
Everything from hip hop to pop
I listen to everything. And there's only two types of music, good and bad.
And you also, I know, represent the Trouidor, the preeminent nightclub in West Hollywood.
Yes.
Where everybody starts at one point or another.
Yeah.
That's a great gig, isn't it?
Yeah, years ago, I booked a band at the Troubadour, got friendly with the owners, including Doug Weston at the time. And as my bands became more successful, I got friendlier and friendlier with Doug and Ed, the owners. And ultimately, there was a fight one night at the club, and the front door bouncer punched one of the customers and got arrested on assault and battery charges. And he called me up and he said, "Would you represent me in the criminal matter?" I'm like, "I'm an entertainment lawyer. What are you talking about?" And he said, No. He goes, you can do it. And that was the start of my relationship with the club. I represented him. Within 3 days, we reached a plea bargain. He got put on probation, and I went from there.
All right, you and I are both entertainment attorneys, and one of the things I want to talk about are things that musicians need to think about when they are starting their careers. Let's start with the subject of, should there be a band agreement if there's there are two or more people in a band?
But, young musicians are a little hesitant. They don't want to deal with the business side of it. They love the creative process, but they're nervous about talking about it. So whether it's the lawyer or manager, or even sometimes it's the parents that are involved, somebody has to be the one to discuss the business side of it. But the greatest example of that, when the Beatles were first formed, Lennon and McCartney reached a deal, and they said, whether I write most of the song or you write most of the song, our names are always going to be on it, and it's going to be a 50-50 split.
And I know that's a frequently an issue that has arisen since then. How often do you see that happen? I mean, I know it happened with the Doors, it happened with REM, and I'm sure other Queen. They all shared the writer, the writer's credit. So the point is that it's something that needs to be negotiated up front. And, for example, who owns the name of the band?
Trademarks are really important.
When can if somebody leaves the band, or do they have the right to use it? If somebody leaves the band, do they get the social media?
Correct.
Can you throw somebody out of the band? I had a case involving a major rock group where, by majority vote, they threw out one of the members of the band, and that caused litigation ultimately as well. So the bottom line is that what you're saying, what I'm saying is get it in writing, and get it in writing before it explodes.
Correct. But now when you're representing a band, you have potential conflicts of interest because you're representing the band in totality. And so I don't inject my opinion. I tell them what the options are, and I say, you guys decide what you think is most appropriate for yourselves, and then I document it.
Yeah, I know. Legally what happens is you say, I represent the entity, I don't represent any of you individually, you all have the right to, and I recommend go seek independent legal counsel. Let's talk about other traps for the unwary. And that's agreements that talent enters into with production companies or record companies or managers. First of all, should it be in writing?
Always.
Right.
And the reason why, there's always going to be ambiguities or fact patterns that might change the interpretation. But if you don't at least have a document as a guideline, then it's a free-for-all. It's critically important that there be a written agreement.
And what can often happen is lead singeritis, where I'm the star now, and
Absolutely.
I want it my way. But wait a minute, we had a deal
One of the first rock bands I ever represented was Van Halen. And David Lee Roth thought that he was the whole band, and he was a star, and he wanted to go solo and be, a movie star. And he left the band.
That was a mistake. So where's the money today for a musician? Is it all in touring and merchandising, as some people say? And can you make money in this streaming world?
It's certainly more difficult. Here's what I tell people. 20 years ago, we would sell a CD and give away a T-shirt. Now we sell the T-shirt and give away the CD. So the point is, there's a way to monetize your music and your career, but you just have to figure it out. And as the model changes, you figure out how to reconfigure. The single largest source of income for any group is touring. And that's why, the legacy acts do phenomenally well. I just went online the other day to try and buy tickets for McCartney. For mediocre seats, it was $3,500 a ticket.
Really?
When I was growing up, I would go to the Fillmore East. I think tickets were like $12.
Yeah, and I saw, for example, George Strait has played SoFi, sold it out, 82,000 people, and I think the cheapest seats, as I saw, were $350.
Yeah.
So good for
and that's
him.
Cheap these days.
Talk to me about being a music supervisor in the sense of how does the music supervisor get paid and when?
Poorly.
I think you're right on that.
I'll give you an example. When I was at Paramount, and I had one of my roles was to negotiate all the music supervisor agreements, and the range for the top end supervisors at that time was anywhere between $75,000 and $150,000, and they would get per movie, and they would get a piece of the soundtrack royalties, and if they were involved in making the deal with the label, they'd also get a percentage of the advance. Now, for those same supervisors, and I've done these deals where I've had somebody come in and go, really, you're going to work for that? The same supervisor that used to make $125 now works for $30, $40, $50,000, and they're happy to work.
Right, and they can't unionize.
I tried. I actually spent the last 4 years, I was on the benefits committee at the Guild of Music Supervisors. We tried to unionize the Guild. We ultimately got involved in litigation with Netflix before the National Labor Relations Board. The case was determined administratively, but the ruling was that because music supervisors were independent contractors and not employees, they couldn't unionize.
So you're doing a lot of stuff. You're producing music documentaries.
Correct.
Tell us about that.
Well, we talked about the Troubadour a minute ago. I've been working for several years on packaging a documentary on the history of the Troubadour. I'm working on a project right now, which I'm really excited about, on Mal Evans, who was the tour manager for the Beatles. I've got a documentary I'm working on the history of the Smothers Brothers. I've got another one on Jerry Lewis. So, and every project has its own issues and its own challenges, but I think there's something really fascinating about taking a career or a celebrity and telling the backstory about how things happen that nobody knows about. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the Billy Joel documentary that just came out, but I've always been a Billy Joel fan. And the stuff that was in that documentary, half of it I had no idea about. Well, it's fascinating to know.
I just saw the Zombies documentary,
yes, I've seen that one too.
Hung
really
Up
good.
on a Dream, which I recommend everybody, as soon as you finish watching this, obtain it, see it. It's really beautiful.
Fabulous, yeah.
You mentioned to me the other day you're involved in trying to put together a reality show?
Yes.
Explain.
$1 million Thrift. And my client she's a shopper. And what she's been doing for many years is she would go to thrift shops and she would find a purse or a jacket that, a name brand that could potentially sell for $5,000 to $10,000, and she would snatch it out of a thrift shop for like $10, $15. And so the reality show is her and her two other girlfriends who are going to teach women how to shop in thrift shops and find the best deals possible so that they could look great for next to nothing.
So you're
It's kind of the Real Housewives of Orange County meets porn shop.
All right, well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
What do you think about, look, everybody's got AI on their lips.
Yes.
What do you see? What's your opinion?
You know, like any new technology, there's good things about it and bad things about it. And it's the application. The biggest problem with new technology is the regulation of the technology is always too many years behind. So the technology advances very quickly, and it takes Congress years to try and figure out how to regulate it. And by then, there's been a lot of mistakes made.
Are you still shopping deals for artists?
Absolutely.
And how do you get paid to do that?
Very little.
You take a percentage or you take a fee, you do a
It depends on
hybrid?
the client, you know. I mean, look, I've been a musician my whole life. I usually say to people, why would you want your lawyer to be your partner? You know, pay me for what I do and then I'm done. But some people can't afford it, particularly early in their career, so they don't have any alternative but to do it on a percentage basis.
It's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, a lot of times people have a dream about being an artist, but they don't have the financial wherewithal to fund the project. I mean, you were asking me a minute ago about you get a video that goes viral. These days, you have to be the record company. You have to be the marketing and promotion company. So what does that take? You usually need to hire a publicist. You need to hire a social media person. You need to hire somebody to help you with production. And it all costs money. So you have now become the label. And then you make a deal for distribution of your product. But the beauty of it, if you can afford to package it yourself, is you own the copyright.
Well, the one constant is change. It's always changing, isn't it? The business. And how do you get to these record companies? You have relationships with the
sure.
A&R people?
I've been doing this 45 years. But, you know, here, at the end of the day, the one thing that never changes about the music business, I learned this from Ahmet Ertegun.
Who is?
Ahmet Ertegun was the founder of Atlantic Records, one of the greatest record executives of all time. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. So I go to his hotel one night, and we're talking about new acts, what Atlantic looks for, and he says to me, there's three things that every new artist needs in order to be successful. Songs, songs, and songs. He says, I can have an artist that is not a great singer, not that good looking, but if the song is a hit, I can take it to the radio stations and make it work. So at the end of the day, the constant is the material has to be
Well,
good.
that's the same thing for motion pictures
No
and
question.
television, is that if you haven't got a good script, you're never going to be able to turn it into
No
gold.
question. That's the
overall.
foundation of what you're building on.
And I want to say another thing about getting it in writing is you better really be careful if you're trying to do it yourself. Too many times I have people who walk in, they couldn't afford a lawyer or thought they couldn't afford a lawyer.
Right.
They've written up an agreement and it's ambiguous and complicated,
No question.
et cetera.
Yep.
Do you I have a position, let's hear what yours is, if any, relating to so many agreements require arbitration if there's a dispute. What's your position?
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of arbitration, but more often than not, there is an arbitration clause in the agreement. And for many people, the reason why they want an arbitration clause, one, it keeps the dispute private.
Right.
And two, it's cheaper than litigating in a courtroom.
I don't necessarily agree with that. As you know, I have a big practice as a
Yes.
litigator, and I find that it can take as long as.
Yes. One of the keys is it binding arbitration or non-binding?
Well, of course, it's got to be binding ordinarily, but it can be very expensive. These arbitrators, $700 to $1,000 an hour, things like that, or more. So
Right.
I think you need to be wary about that. Although I do do you sometimes see mandatory mediation? Before you
Yes.
sue me, we have to get together
Which is great.
and see if we can work this out. I think
that
that's a
makes
good
sense.
idea.
The other issue
Overall.
about arbitration is that when an arbitrator makes a decision, whether you agree with it or not, unless you can prove that there was fraud in the rendering of the opinion, it's almost impossible to overturn
Right,
the
it's
ruling.
not appealable
Right.
overall. And the other thing I like to put in the contracts is the prevailing party gets costs and attorney's fees if they
question.
win, because otherwise you may not be able to get a lawyer to work. Some lawyers will work on contingency
Yes.
if they know they're going to get paid at the end of the day if they win, if they think it's a meritorious case.
Yes.
But so anyway, all of you people out there, be very wary of entering into those kinds of agreements. Although I'll say, in the music industry and in the film industry, with the majors, they all have arbitration clauses
Right.
overall.
And they're going to crush you. They'll bring 5 lawyers on a case, and you have one, and they paper you to death.
Yes, and well, let's leave with this. And don't give up your rights until you have to. I mean, music publishing is so valuable overall. You want to hang on to your rights as much as possible. And if you're a self-starter and you go out and you start to make it happen, don't be swayed by the very first person trying to woo you.
Right. And you were just asking a minute ago, how do people make money in the music business? The largest source of revenue right now for the music industry is the sale of catalogs and income streams.
And you've been involved in those?
I have been several, yes.
As have I as well. That's the newest trend.
Yes.
You get a multiple of 10 to 15 or more
Yeah.
of the net earnings over the past 3 years of the share that the talent is going to get. All right, everybody, this has been a wonderful interview with David Helfant. I want you to all join the Trevolution. That means you're supposed to sign up and like this, become a loyal supporter, write nice things about it. Be sure to watch the next time. And thank you all for watching.